All right. Happy Thursday, Downfield readers. Thanks for joining me for another show tonight. In this preseason, we are going to have the same kind of a content show that we did last Thursday when we were talking about all of the preseason games that are going on tonight. And I know that we've got one game that already started, so we're not going to talk too much about them. But we've got some other games that are going on. Actually, all three of them, 3 out of the 4 have started tonight. My bad. So 3 of them have started. We're going to start talking about those games, fantasy implications, things that have happened around the league in the last 48 hours. But before we get into that, I have an introduction to make. I'm introducing someone new to the show, someone that I had met on X. And just after a brief chat with him, he seems like he knows his stuff. So I am going to bring on to the page here, Mr. Logan Bland. How are we doing tonight, Logan?
Great. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on your show.
Not a problem. An honor. I think that's the first time somebody has said it's an honor to be on my show. I feel so loved and so privileged. Thank you so much for that. It's a very kind remark. So first thing, if you haven't done a whole lot of these shows and we're kind of getting into the mix of it now, why don't you just go ahead, tell us a little bit about you, about your background. What are you doing right now from a I guess a job perspective and from a football perspective? Tell us your background. What are you all into?
Yeah. So in high school, my junior year, I joined a class called broadcast journalism because growing up, sports was everything to me. Just knowing everything, basketball, baseball, football. And that class allowed me to kind of give myself my own platform in terms of just creating videos I wanted to. After Stafford won the Super Bowl, I made a comparison video on him and Rodgers' career arc and how close they could be in terms of their all-time list ranking. So stuff like that was able to build my confidence on screen and utilize a different platform. And then went to community college and studied journalism and wrote beat articles for the paper and covered the sports teams at the college. And after I graduated from the college, I kind of hit a standstill of what I wanted to do. And I also found the gym at that same time. And so now I'm a personal trainer while also an aspiring bodybuilder. I got my first show
Wow, no
coming up in
kidding.
May. So very excited for what's to come down the future.
That's very cool. Very cool. And I see that you're wearing a Chargers hat. Are you from the obviously there's a game tonight, the Chargers and the Rams that we'll talk about a little bit. Are you from the LA area?
No, I wish. I'm from the central Illinois area. I'm a big Bears guy, but huge Justin Herbert fan, have been for a long time. And really just the whole Oregon quarterback lineage of Mariota and then into Herbert. But Herbert's been my guy since his rookie year. And he's been everything that I expect him to be. So I kind of take that victory lap every chance I get. And my buddies, they used to joke with me saying, like, why do you like this guy so much? And I always try to make sure to rub it their face as much as I can, saying, hey, I was right about this guy.
Yeah. So how much Herbert have you taken so far this year?
I plan on taking him this Saturday in my draft. The Biadasz injury kind of scares me off a little bit, but I think Jake Slaughter can be a very capable starting center.
Yeah, I don't think he was too bad either. I remember looking at him and even doing mock fantasy or mock NFL style drafts online, and his name kept on coming up as somebody that could have went third, fourth round, something like that. So I think they're in pretty decent hands, even though he's a rookie center. I think with the running game that they got and Mike McDaniels as the offensive coordinator there. Yeah, I have high hopes for the Chargers this year too. So I think that they'll have a great season this year. Got a lot of good running game. Yeah, very excited. I'm going to start us off here though, just by going over some of the biggest news for, I guess, the last 48 hours. And I think the biggest one for me is Josh Jacobs. So Josh Jacobs, if you didn't know, is charged with 2 misdemeanors now. And that's something that's been in the news for a long time. And it seems like it's been picking up a little bit of steam here. No sign that he'll definitely get suspended this year, but chances are he probably will. What do you think this means for the Green Bay offense? What does it mean for you as far as looking at Marshawn Lloyd a little bit more? And have you taken any stock, or is Josh Jacobs just not on your radar at this point.
Yeah, I think it's a huge concern because we just saw James Pierce get an 8-game suspension for little similar stuff. So
Yeah.
I think a suspension is inevitable. I don't think it'll necessarily be 8 games, and I think that's a huge miss for the Packers offense because you look at Jacobs last year, the touchdown machine. It's every week, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, whatever it may have been. He was a unit, and he helped out Jordan Love a whole lot. And I think Marshawn Lloyd is a very capable starting back as long as they have extra beef behind him to not make him the bell cow. But that could very well be a very slow start to the run game and a very slow start for the Packers offense in a loaded division that you can't afford a slow start here.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with you. Even watching Josh Jacobs last year, I'm in Minnesota, and but not a Vikings fan. But I was watching the game, the Vikings game, when they were playing the Packers at home. One of the things that I noticed about Josh Jacobs, and the Vikings had like a 20-point lead or something like that at one point early in the game. Jacobs was still in the game. And not only was he still in the game, but he was contributing big time, catching passes out of the backfield. I mean, this guy isn't just a runner. He's an active member of that passing game too. So that's going to be a pretty big loss for him, whether it's 2 games, 4 games, whatever it is. I think the Packers are going to be hurting to not have him in there. Moving on to the next one, maybe not as big of a deal, but the Browns release, and we'll be talking about the Packers a little bit later on here too. But the Browns release Cedric Tillman, who's only 26, 3 years in the league, all with the Cleveland Browns. He was a 3rd-round draft pick in 2023, coming out of Tennessee. Stat line for his career so far, not impressive. It's what a lot of good, decent wide receivers put up in 1 year: 71 receptions, 833 yards, 5 touchdowns. But a young kid, it's just kind of weird to me where they're going to let somebody like that go and maybe not try to get rid of Jerry Jeudy, who's obviously had some fumbling issues. But also Cleveland goes out and they draft in the 1st and 2nd round this year. They get KC Concepcion and they get Denzel Boston. How quickly do you think that Cedric Tillman's going to get scooped up here?
I think he won't last very long on the free agent market. I mean, Cedric Tillman isn't exactly a wide receiver 1 in the NFL, but you can't beat wide receiver depth. And if Cedric Tillman's your wide receiver 3, it's a pretty good receiving core to have him as your 3. And I understand a lot of stock in Concepcion and even Harold Fan as a tight end in Cleveland, but I feel like it's just an odd cut to make in terms of not wanting that extra depth.
Yeah, I thought so too. And even in the last couple of years, you always kind of heard Cedric Tillman's name. Is he going to come? Is this going to be his year? Is he going to have a breakout year? But wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, obviously he got some playing time to the point where he was getting 25 receptions a year, putting up, almost 300 yards a year. Not terrible, but I mean, shit, you can even look at somebody like a Rashad Bateman in Baltimore, who, he's putting up those kind of 35 receptions in a year with 400 yards. And, he's considered a 2-3 kind of wide receiver. So thought that one was a little odd. Indianapolis Colts activate Alec Pierce from the physically unable to perform list. And all I can say is it's about time. I was lucky enough to actually get him in one draft and then put him on my IR. Now I got to figure out what I'm going to do with him because he's not on the PUP list anymore. But, that's just kind of the fear mongering that happens with fantasy football early on in the season. They'll give you these little cookie crumbs of, hey, he's injured and he might not play and he hasn't been practicing yet this year. Let's go out and get Keenan Allen. And now they have a pretty formidable, if they all play, wide receiver crew in Indianapolis. What are your thoughts on Indy this year? And keep in mind, they're playing Baltimore week 1. So, if you want to be on the show again.
I'd say buy stock in Josh Downs with having Keenan Allen in that wide receiver room. I mean, Josh was already a talented wide receiver, but being able to learn from one of the best slot guys from the last decade, and that's going to be huge for him. But also, you just gave Alec Pierce a gigantic contract. They're obviously going to use him in the offense, and he had a lot of explosive plays last year. So I think hopefully Daniel Jones can come back and be fully healthy, and that offense could find the stride where they had the first 8 weeks with Jonathan Taylor running the football down everyone's throats. That's a very intriguing matchup though with Baltimore. Very excited for that one, week 1.
Yeah, so am I. I'm super stoked for it. I think Indy could come off. It's in Indianapolis, obviously, but they could come off to just as great of a start that they did last year. They had Michael Pittman in that wide receiver room instead, but with the wide receivers that you got this year, it's not much of a downgrade. You still got Tyler Warren, you still got JT back there. If Daniel Jones can bounce back, that's going to be a scary team to play with or to deal with in the AFC South. Moving along we're going to talk about the Packers again, actually, because we just talked about them and Josh Jacobs, but they actually went out and they signed themselves a tight end today. 31-year-old tight end, Jonnu Smith, who, played last year. He put up some pretty decent stats. I've always liked Jonnu Smith. I thought he was good in Atlanta. He went to Miami. Great number 1 tight end, even better number 2 tight end. Why did the Packers, and I have an idea of why, but why do you think the Packers went out and got a tight end?
I think number 1, I don't know if the trajectory of Tucker Kraft's full ability to be available week 1. I know he's practicing. I know he says he's felt good, but I think they want to be very cautious because that's at the very worst a top 5 tight end in football. And Jonnu's been a really solid tight end the last 5-6 years, it seems, just both blocking and receiving, just very reliable in the run game and pass game. So I feel like having that in the room, you pass up on that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think obviously we talked about Josh Jacobs, obviously. If he gets suspended, you got Marshawn Lloyd back there. And not to say that he's a bad running back, but maybe that affects the running game a little bit more than what you think it does. And they already know that they're going to be a little bit more pass happy. Maybe they throw out some 2 tight end sets. Maybe it is because of Tucker Kraft. Maybe he isn't progressing as well. So you're going to bring in Jonnu Smith, maybe take up some of those hits, maybe put him in there for some of the pass blocking plays. But overall, I can only see one real loser in this whole thing. I don't think it's necessarily bad for Kraft because if Kraft is healthy, obviously he's going to play, right? He's still going to be the tight end one. If he can't play, it's a win for him, or maybe he's only 50% or 70% or whatever it is. Great. At least now you've got Jonnu Smith back there. I think it's great also for Love. Being the quarterback there, they could run a couple of different tight end sets. You got another big body that you can get the ball out to. And I think the only one that it really hurts is maybe Jaden Reed. Because as far as I'm concerned, you've got Christian Watson and then you've got Matthew Golden. Let's keep in mind that this guy is a former first-round draft pick. These guys are the number 1, number 2. So unless they're going 3 wide end set, Jaden Reed's, he's not part of that first 1-2 punch passing game. Now you throw in a Jonnu Smith in there, capable pass catcher. Maybe it hurts Jaden Reed a little bit.
And with the contract Christian Watson got this offseason, it also allows hey, we just paid this guy. We can't have him behind. That's a very weird. It's always been a weird receiving room since they traded Devontae. It was always what are these guys? Do we have a whole bunch of 2s? Where is our 1? And you'd hope that Golden can take that leap this year and assert himself as the best among them. But with the money Watson got, he should also be able to step up and prove that he's a number 1 this league.
Yeah, absolutely love that point too. It was a muddled wide receiver room last year. Obviously, they had Daubs and they had Wicks back there, Dontavius Wicks. So they clean up that a little bit. They add another piece to the tight end crew. I think it was a good move for Green Bay. Good job. Before we get into the games, what do you think about the decision to not have Pro Bowls anymore?
I love it. It has gone way out of proportion in terms of what happens at the end of the year, and it's not so much the game, it's the opt-outs that happen and what leads to it. Tyler Huntley being named, no offense to the Raven fans.
No, you took exactly where I was going to go with this. It's so funny because I hate the fact that Tyler Huntley is ever referred to as a Pro Bowler. That is one of the dumbest things ever, and he's a Raven. But yeah, I digress. Go ahead.
And it's finally now with the game being removed, those guys will have just the 1 guys that get named at the end of the year. They have that title on their resume, and no one else can have that added because there's no more opt-outs. So I think it's way overdue, but I think it's fantastic they finally did it.
Yeah, I would love to see him bring back a little bit more of the skills stuff. Not as much contact, but like for quarterbacks, how far can you throw it on a straight line? Can you hit all the targets? Bring back the blue chalk balls where they're hitting moving targets and stuff. I always got a kick out of that. I love that kind of stuff instead of having this, oh, look at, we're going to play a football game and the final score is going to be 62-53 and nobody's really going to tackle. And yeah, what a joke. But I am glad also, that was my take as well about the Pro Bowl. I'm glad they got rid of it. So one of the first games tonight, 49ers at the Raiders. 49ers, who really, they've got more cues on their depth chart than a gay pride parade has cues. Everybody is hurt on their team there. I think it's a last shot for Stribling here to really solidify his self. I love the fact that his fan base is calling themselves the Strib Club. That's unique. But I think Stribling, what a great story for him this year. Kittle, he's obviously not going to play this year, or not this year. He's not going to play in this preseason game. Mike Evans is out. Who's not out? The guy that I'm really looking forward to, obviously Christian McCaffrey is not going to play, but Kalen Black is one that really intrigues me. I find it hard to believe that people are still taking CMC in the first round. I will never draft CMC because I wouldn't take him in the second. I just know that he's never going to get there. The amount of touches that he had last year scares the hell out of me. And for people that don't know, anytime that he's touched the ball more than 370 times in a previous year, I don't think he's played more than 6 games the following year. Last year, he was over 400 touches. So if you're drafting him, take Kalen Black. He's not going that. I mean, if you can get him in the 15th round or something like that, it's a cheap handcuff for when, not if, CMC goes down. What are your thoughts on the 49ers this year?
Yeah, I think it's a huge year, number one, and I would go back to the CMC. I took him 8th last year in my 10-man league, and
Nice pick.
I knew every week, hold my breath because the touches did scare me. I'm like, all right, when is it going to happen? But the injuries are also always an issue, it seems, with this team. I wonder when the question we had the questions were asked last year with Shanahan and Lynch, and I think this year could be a really suspicious make or break year. They have a couple intriguing veterans on the defense that could maybe make an impact. Ashton Davis at safety and Deion Jones at linebacker. Obviously, Warner and Dre Greenlaw, they have always had their injury issues, and I think Malik Mustafa's is his name for the safety room in San Fran. He's hurt, so those guys making maybe some final impressions in tonight's game to solidify themselves as key parts of this roster. But in a loaded division with 2 teams that were just playing the NFC title game, it's not going to be easy to get back to the playoffs and get to where they want to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too, bringing up the defense, because from what I've seen from the 49ers, they seem to lack a lot of pass rushing from the defensive side of the ball. They're not getting a lot of pressure in here. Their defense probably has just as many question marks as their offense does. So that'll be interesting to see how all of that plays out for the 49ers. On the other side of the ball, they've got the Raiders. And while Clint Kubiak has been saying Kirk Cousins is our starter week number 1, they've got Mendoza, and now he's kind of muddying the waters a little bit and saying, well, it's ambiguous, and we haven't really made a decision on who the starter is going to be. My personal opinion on that is you paid Cousins to come in. You got the new kid Mendoza. I would let him learn. And I think that's kind of a lost art form in the NFL when they're bringing in rookie quarterbacks. That's what they used to do all the time in the NFL. You'd bring in a rookie, and no matter where you drafted him, he probably wasn't going to start because you had that senior quarterback in there that they were at least going to learn from and pick up the game. I like the fact that they've got Kirk Cousins. They're not expected to do much this year. I think they're over-under Vegas odds on wins is maybe 6.5 or something like that. So first year for Clint Kubiak. What would you like to see happen with that quarterback room?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I think Fernando's very pro ready in terms of his play
Absolutely.
style, but I also think being able to see the field from the sideline can be very beneficial. Like look what it did for Pat Mahomes. His his first year as a starter after playing behind Alex Smith, those for 50 touchdowns, and wins MVP. So I think we do see Fernando pretty early in the season, but even just seeing 3, 4 games from the sideline could be extremely beneficial.
Yeah. Do you think we see him because the Raiders are going to come out losing, or do you think we're going to see him because maybe Cousins doesn't have? We saw a little bit of him last year coming back from that injury from 2 years ago. Um, or do you think maybe halfway through the season, they're throwing in the towel a little bit? Let's see what we got out of rookie number one.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a matter of lack of being able to push the ball down the field, and that's just old man Kirk Cousins at this point, and heck of a career, respect the guy, but it gets to a point where it's like, all right, you can see the writing on the wall. He's immobile in the pocket, and they're
Yeah.
just not doing much with the offense. Now, hopefully, I'm wrong, and they come out guns a blazing, obviously with an improved offensive line, but again, the Genti injury is also scary. You don't know exactly what his timeline is going to be. They made it seem a lot less worse than it seemed initially, but sprained ankles are still a big nagger all season long.
Yeah, a sprained ankle, and from the initial time that it happened, I saw anything from an ACL, and then all of a sudden, it's not an ACL, it's just a lower leg injury, but it's a bad one. Oh well, it's not a bad one, but it's a high ankle sprain. Well, it's not a high ankle sprain, it's a low ankle sprain. I figure by the end of the week, they're going to downgrade him to a stub toe. I mean, at this point, it's like, is there really an injury going on here at all? But the running game, yeah, that should be interesting to see as well. I'm also interested to see outside of Brock Bowers, who didn't have surgery on that MCL, and that just came out recently as well. Um, their wide receiver, nobody's talking about the wide receivers. I'm liking Trey Tucker out of everything. And obviously, I think the big thing for me is they've decided to sit him. They're not playing him. I don't know if they actually played him last week either. But Trey Tucker is the wide receiver one on that team. So from a fantasy perspective, I've been able to get Trey Tucker as a late round sleeper, and you can't get wide receiver ones this late, but I'm getting them in like the 13th, 14th, 15th round. Nobody seems to want to grab him. I don't know if they're confused with Jalen Naylor being there as well, or they're thinking that Brock Bowers is just going to get 120 receptions for 1,400 yards. Wide receiver room, how much is that going to play? And are you thinking about drafting anybody on that Raiders offense for wide receivers?
Yeah, I mean, outside Trey Tucker, not a huge fan of everything else, but week in, week out, there's not a guy more chance of going for 40 fantasy points than Trey Tucker. I mean, the guy's just an explosive play kind of guy, and obviously being solidified number one, and better quarterback play is going to be certain, no matter how bad Kirk or Fernando come off playing, it's going to be better than what it was last year. So Trey Tucker, if you get him late in the rounds, fantastic. That is a huge boost to your wide receiver room on your fantasy team.
Yeah, a lot of upside. Next game tonight, let's talk about Steelers and Bills. The Steelers have a very intriguing quarterback room. They've got four quarterbacks now that are all pretty much roster ready, is what I'll call them. Obviously, they're going to go with Aaron Rodgers as their starter, but they also have the rookie Drew Aller, who's been really good. They've got Will Howard, who they drafted last year, and then it almost seems like Mason Rudolph might be the odd man out. He was a Steeler. He wasn't a Steeler. Now he's a Steeler again. But I look at that quarterback room and I go, which one isn't going to make it? And that's if they decide to keep three of them. They might still only go two quarterbacks and put one on the practice squad, which means two quarterbacks are up for grabs. If that was your quarterback room, what kind of decisions would you make there?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Rodgers is obviously going to be the starter, but I really love Drew Aller's upside. I mean, Booger McFarland kept saying on TV, he's like, "I'm sick and tired of hearing 6'5", 245." It's like, well, that's what he is, and you can't coach that. And some of the throws that he's made this preseason, I know last game he didn't look as sharp as he did the previous game, but that sideline throw he had getting hit as well, the ball just absolutely zipped out of his hand, and the ball placement could have been any better. And I feel like we all knew who he was in college coming out, especially high touted high school quarterback, and just couldn't figure things out at Penn State. And me personally, I don't think that's a fault of his own. I think that's part of a James Franklin issue in terms of just being able to develop strong quarterbacks. But going to the decision of obviously Drew Eller would be my wide receiver too. Mason Rudolph has to be the odd man out just because you obviously invested some draft capital into Will Howard as well, and you you can't place him. You can't place Will on the practice squad either because that allows him to get snatched up from another team that could be able to have a serviceable backup quarterback. So rostering 3 quarterbacks is obviously the way to go, but that backup quarterback position between Aller and Howard is going to be very intriguing. Would love to be a fly on the wall in the coach's decision.
Yeah, that's some great insight, by the way, on his college. That's some great stuff. Who do you think could use, say Mason Rudolph is the guy that they're going to trade, barring any kind of injuries that might happen this weekend? Will Howard's available. If you're the GM of whichever team, who's going after, or I'm sorry, Mason Rudolph, who's going after Mason Rudolph? Who are you trying to trade him to? Or if you're one of the GMs of these teams that maybe don't have such a great quarterback room, where might he land?
I think Indy would be a very big sleeper for me, and that comes into play with Anthony Richardson as well. And it seems like we're hitting to a boiling point of them saying enough's enough. And I personally don't see how they can continue that relationship after what happened last year with the trade request and just all the on-field issues. I'm a big Anthony Richardson believer, but just the way the relationship has gone, I don't see how it can last. And also, Miami would stand out to me. I feel like Mason Rudolph could be more serviceable and trustworthy than Quinn Ewers would be, saying Malik Willis were to go down with an injury. Hopefully not, but football is football. Injuries happen, and not like Miami's trying to win anything this year, but having that backup quarterback to continue to try to push the ball down the field is a privilege and service, and Mason Rudolph will be able to do that better than Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, I'd throw 2 more teams out there as well. I like your picks; those are great. I would throw at Atlanta for an obvious one. You've got Tua, who's coming off of an injury, and he takes a bad shot and he's done. Then you also got Michael Penix. He's coming off an injury too. Didn't play that great last year. That could be one of them. And then Cleveland, obviously, I think they have the worst quarterback room out of anybody in the NFL. But we all know that Cleveland isn't going to do that because they just make really bad decisions when it comes to quarterbacks. And we'll get into that in a minute as well. So we've got, let me see. What's next? The Bills. And the one thing that I want to talk about with the Bills, because it is the Steelers and the Bills tonight. Do you ever play in a Survivor League? Have you ever done that before?
No.
So Survivor Leagues, for those that don't know, it's basically, and I was invited to play in one. Thank you, Matthew Montgomery from from Football Guys. So I was invited to play in a Survivor League, and it's basically you've got the whole season, and most leagues you only get 1 strike. This one you've actually got 2 strikes, but you get to pick one team to win every week, and that's the only time that you can pick that team for the entire season. So, and I think the funny thing is, you wearing a Chargers hat. I think my first pick, I already put it in. I don't care because the Chargers are playing Arizona in week 1. They're playing Arizona at home. It's not a division opponent. They're playing them at home. Should be a pretty easy win. Arizona's only projected to win like 5.5 games this year. Meanwhile, the Chargers are projected to win somewhere around 10.5 or 9.5 or something like that. So I went with the Chargers, but I can't pick the Chargers again for the rest of the year. So I'm going through the entire season because sometimes there's only like one game that you can pick, for a team to win. And you got to pick like 17 winners because it could go throughout the entire NFL season. And I'm looking at and so I make all my picks for the entire year because I'm weird like that. Not that I'm always sticking with those guys, but I'm looking at the teams that I didn't pick. And there's your usual suspects in there. I'm not taking Miami to win any games, Arizona, Atlanta, Las Vegas. I don't think I picked, but then I noticed I didn't pick Buffalo. I didn't pick Buffalo to win any games Like it was never just the clear option. Oh, Buffalo's totally going to win this game. And I'm looking at their schedule and I'm thinking, holy crap, what a tough schedule. They open up in Houston, and even their home games are hard. They open in Houston, tough game because you're playing the Texans. Then your first home game is against the Lions, tough game against the Lions. Then you got the Chargers at home, tough game with the Chargers. Patriots at home, at the Rams, at the Raiders. That might be their easiest game. You got the Ravens at home. You're in Minnesota. You're in New York playing the Jets. You've got the Dolphins at home, Chiefs at home, on the road with the Patriots, on the road with the Packers, Bears at home, which isn't going to be an easy game. They were a playoff winner last year. At the Broncos, at the Dolphins, and then the Jets at home. So outside of their own division, which you think, the Jets probably aren't going to be that great. Miami's not going to be that great. I don't like picking division games, though, because even being a Ravens fan, I know how bad the Browns are going to be this year. I'm not picking the Ravens to beat the Browns because there's always that one game where the Browns are going to come out, they're going to punch us in the mouth, and we're going to look stupid. And it doesn't matter if we're 9-0 and they're 1-8. It doesn't matter. It always seems to happen. So the Bills this year, I think they were projected to win 10.5 games. Just on I guess, a high level overview, now that I've recapped their entire season coming up, how are you feeling about the Bills this year?
I think they missed their window. I think that 2021 year was the year. Even last year, they, no pun intended, they threw the game away against Denver to have maybe the easiest route to the Super Bowl last year, and they didn't get there. And I don't love the Joe Brady in-house hiring personally. Not saying there was many better candidates on the market, but it just seems like it's just like it's like, say Sean McDermott was a frat president and he graduated. Joe Brady was the junior vice president that was brought in as the president next year. And it's like, there's not going to be that much change to an already aging roster. And I think there's going to be definitely questions after this season in terms of what Josh Allen's future looks like in Buffalo.
Yeah, I love the fact that you said aging roster as well, because while I'm looking at this game, and I can typically find a game or with any team that's playing in the preseason, there's usually a couple of offensive nuggets in there where it's like, oh, I can't wait to see how this guy plays or that guy plays, or if it's a high first round, second round, defensive player that I'm kind of interested in. I'm looking at their team for tonight's game, and it's like, okay, there's Josh Allen. Do I really care about Kyle Allen? No, not really. James Cook, we all know he's going to be the starter. We all know that Ray Davis he's been on the team for a while too. Sure, DJ Moore, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, there's your wide receivers there. Dalton Kincaid. There's like nobody new on this offense that even the backups are like the same guys. Joshua Palmer, McCole Hardman Jr., Dawson Knox is the backup tight end again. The only guy I'm really interested in is Skylar Bell. Skylar Bell, I thought, was a great pickup for them in this last year's draft. But, is he going to play? Because it looks like they've got their solid team. It looks like the same team from last year under new management, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So it was hard for me to get excited about anything about this Bills team. And that's not just because I'm a Ravens fan and people are going to say that. I'm not excited about it at all.
Yeah, that defense is also very uninspiring to me as well. I don't see how this team can get better than last year.
I'm with you on that one. I'm glad we're on the same page. So we've got the next game is the Patriots and the Browns. Trevion Henderson isn't playing tonight, obviously, with that injured ankle. Should be expected to play. Week 1 is what they're saying right now versus the Steelers, and I hope he does play, and I hope he plays well. My takeaway from the Patriots this year is everybody is talking about, obviously, they had Stephon Diggs last year. They got A.J. Brown this year. From a fantasy perspective, I have not been able to get away from drafting Drake May. And it's not because I'm making it a point to draft him, but it's because he's falling late 4th, early 5th round. And it's like, I'm just going, oh, come on, guys. Like, it's Drake May. He was 1 vote away from being the co-MVP last year. He's got A.J. Brown there right now. He's got a better offensive line this year. Like, what are we doing? From a fantasy perspective, and I was thinking about this one. Is there a better stack that you can think of than if you were to turn and get A.J. Brown and a second, beginning a third, which I've seen him go on that turn? A.J. Brown, Drake May.
I don't think so, because even last year with Drake May's like floor games were still 16, 17 points. And I love Jalen Hurts, but Drake May is above and beyond as a passer than Jalen is. And that allows for more upside for AJ to have big games week in, week out. And obviously he'll have his duds from time to time just because you never know who's going to be lined up against him straight across, or just a tough night for the offense. But that stack could very well win you a week, even when you have the rest of your team very well underperforming.
Yeah, I love that stack. Is there a team? Is there a team that you're more afraid of in the AFC? You've got the Patriots, and I'll say I'm not really. As a Ravens fan, again, I would say the top three teams that I'm really afraid of this year are the Patriots, the Broncos, and the Chargers. And I think those are the big three.
Yeah, Chargers, I love it because obviously Harbaugh is going to have them boys ready. Patriots, of course, people like to bring up the Super Bowl hangover narrative. If Vrabel is going to have them ready, I promise you they will not miss the ground running. And I think a dark horse in the AFC from a lot of perspectives is the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Last year, the defense was just absolutely unreal. And I mean, they every game you went into it saying if CJ Stroud can just be a game manager, and he couldn't be, and that was their downfall. But if CJ Stroud could just really figure it out this year in terms of just being able to slow the game down and be who he was, or just even a quarter of himself his rookie year, they could very well run the table and get to the Super Bowl. But Denver as well, bringing in Jalen Waddle for Bo Nix, and hopefully that ankle injury isn't lingering into this season. But just AFC is a scary place to be.
Yeah, Bo Nix looked really good last preseason game. He came out that first series, and I was like, wow, there's Bo. I think that they would have won hands down against New England in the AFC Championship game last year. They had everything ready to go until he got hurt. I like that pick with the Houston Texans, though. The one thing that I found, obviously with what they have added this year, they still have Woody Marks back there and they got David Montgomery from the Lions. And David Montgomery is such a great pickup for more than one reason, but he is a true running back one. The fact that he was splitting time with Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit last year just means that there's less tread on the tires, right? I mean, this guy, he's coming off of a pretty manageable workload from last year. He coming in as the number one guy. You got Woody Marks back there. I think as long as the wide receiver core can really stay healthy, or healthy enough-ish, really, because that team is really built around the defense. I was shocked this year when they were talking about all the coaches, offensive and defensive coordinators that were getting interviews for head coaching jobs. Where the hell was Matt Burke, and how was his name not being mentioned? I think it was his third year as the defensive coordinator down there, and he has had shutdown defenses. You look at the takeaways that they've had over the last couple of years and the sack ratio. It boggles my mind how this guy couldn't get, any recognition for that. And maybe they're giving it to DeMeco Ryans, but holy crap, that defense, that's going to be good again this year.
For sure. It's going to be very exciting to watch Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson from opposite sides of the end go after the quarterback.
Getting on to the last game, we got the Rams and the Chargers. I'm going to let you take away the Chargers. What are you expecting to see tonight?
Yeah, I mean, Harbaugh's always going to have the guys going to play hard. And I was personally more looking more at the Ram side of the ball, and just because Ty Simpson has looked tremendous in the preseason, and you kind of go back to when the Packers drafted Jordan Love and thinking, okay, because obviously with drafting Ty Simpson last year, kind of some question marks saying, hey, you were one game away from playing for another Super Bowl. you got Matthew Stafford, who sees hole 18 on the course. Like, he's not going to be here for much longer.
Right.
Obviously, Sean McVay's in the prime of his career, and you take a backup quarterback to add to a NFC title game roster. But and going back to the Jordan Love thing, it's kind of the premise of saying I don't think there will be a Ty Simpson in the next 3 drafts, and who am I to say that's incorrect to Les Snead and the front office in LA?
Yeah. Valid point from the Rams. You've got Ty Simpson, who they took with the 13th pick, versus Stetson Bennett, who I thought he played admirably at Georgia, won a couple of national championships down there. It's another couple of, you'd almost like to have had on a certain level Matthew Stafford retire, just so you could have these 2 guys who could compete for that starting role, because I think honestly both of them could be in a starting role kind of a situation. Obviously the Rams didn't think so after watching what they saw from Bennett last year. They jump up and take Ty Simpson, who, it wasn't completely unreasonable. I actually had one of my friends who actually texted me. He's like, I'll bet they take Ty Simpson at 13. And sure enough, they did. And he goes, you owe me $20. We didn't bet. But still, to take Ty Simpson there was really great. The Rams also, so today's news, they traded for Tutu Atwell today. And they traded away a running back, Jarquez Hunter, to Miami. And this kind of a weird trade says a couple of different things to me. So you're going to bring back a Tutu Atwell. And let's face it, Tutu Atwell is nothing really more than a wide receiver 4. Okay. But they're bringing in a depth piece who knows the system. That to me says Puka's getting suspended, or they have an inclination that Puka is probably going to get suspended. And for what he did, I don't know if you saw the bite marks on, on that girl's shoulder, but yeah, you've got to be a certain mindset there. 4 game, 6 game. Is it in the same kind of a thing as a James Pierce Jr.?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 4+ for sure. I mean, it's just how it looks. And Puka's had some issues off the field as it is, just being on some different streams, and just the I know he's figuring some stuff out with rehab this offseason, which is fantastic for him. Glad he's getting the help that he needs, but it's just how it looks in terms of just the continuous patterns of what he's been doing off the field.
Yeah. So they get rid of a running back. Obviously, they don't need a running back. They've got some great running backs with the Rams. Why the Miami Dolphins felt like they needed another running back down there, not really quite sure. They've got Jalen Wright. They've got Ollie Gordon. Obviously, they've got Devon Achane. So they grabbed this kid for a Tutu Atwell. But what does that say about the Miami's wide receiver core then on the other side? You're probably getting rid of one of the only veterans that you've got in that wide receiver room, because you've got Malik Washington, and then you've got 2 third-round draft pick rookies from this year, Caleb Douglas and Chris Bell. And what a fantastic young wide receiver core that they have. I think that speaks volumes to them, where they're just like, we don't need a Tutu Atwell. We get it. He's a veteran. He's got great hands. He's fast, all this good stuff. Chris Bell, if I'm not mistaken, I think they just took him off the injury reports. He was questionable. He wasn't practicing. I think it's a great sign for Miami's wide receivers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to think Malik Willis has some say in whether he would keep a wide receiver around or not, especially a veteran like Tutu. And obviously with Malik getting that big contract, you want to have him in the most successful position as possible. And if they feel like these young kids are going to step up and be big time players, then let's hit the ground running and get these development going to get back to competitive football as quick as possible.
Yeah. So sticking with that same game, though, I want to get back to the Chargers. Trey Lance, and I don't know if a lot of people actually saw that Trey Lance was the number 2 guy there in Los Angeles. What are your thoughts on Trey Lance? Because it seems like he didn't have a really great performance in the last preseason game. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name of the guy who's quarterback 3 right now on the depth chart. Is it possible? We talked about quarterbacks possibly being available, Mason Rudolph. Is that something that you would want the Chargers to entertain? How do you feel about Trey Lance?
Yeah, I think the writing is on the wall with Trey Lance in the NFL, and it's unfortunate how the uh, career has transpired. You know, not really getting the true opportunity in San Fran, and when he was the starter, very quickly got hurt and never won the job back with Purdy taking over the NFL world. But with this talented roster and the ceiling it has, obviously Herbert's been beat up these last couple years, and you never want to see him get hurt again. But if he were to go down, if you bring Trey Lance into this team, very unlikely they will win another game. So bringing in a guy like Mason Rudolph to be a serviceable backup would be huge, and just kind of a weight lifted off the Chargers fans and just the front office and staff shoulders.
Yeah, and I think it plays to Mason Rudolph as well as the style of quarterback that he is compared to the style of Justin Herbert. I think it's very. I mean, you look at a guy like Trey Lance. More of a, if we're going to go Kyler Murray-esque type of a quarterback, or one of these guys that's going to be taken off all the time. But I think Mason Rudolph would be a guy that could fit in very well with that. But no matter what quarterback that they put in there, Tyler Biadasz out for the year. Are the Chargers ever going to get a frickin' break on their offensive line? Not literally, because they've had enough of them. But does the offensive line scare you at all this year?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you have the two best tackles in football, arguably, and you definitely have the best duo in terms of tackles. And last year, obviously, Rashawn got hurt in training camp, and then all with the ankle issues all last year. Those two obviously aren't the concern. It's just the interior of the protection. And again, I truly believe Jake Slaughter can come in and be a serviceable center to protect Herbert, but it's the guard play that can really get you in trouble.
For sure. I'm going to pull up one thing real quick if I can do it quickly, because I always do. Even for the NFL draft, I like to go ahead and see where I've got centers ranked, or I rank every position really, based off of how they did in college, what they did at the combine, all that great stuff when it comes to their draftability, where they're going to go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I actually had Slaughter as the 7th best center coming out, but with next gen stats involved, he actually ranked the highest. So good starter was what I had next to his name, a good starter within 1 to 2 years. So if that gives you any indication of what, I don't know, my thoughts were on it, when I saw him at the combine, his combine score, his play, I thought he was a very serviceable person. Back up for the first couple of years, but good starter within 2. So I do like him. One of the last things that maybe we get into, and we've talked about quarterbacks, we've talked about the Browns already. The quarterback situation. Is there a worse quarterback situation in the NFL than the Cleveland Browns? It's almost like Deshaun Watson doesn't want to be there anymore. He comes out and makes some stupid ass remarks. The Cleveland Browns fans are pissed off with him. The NFL world is just kind of tired of him at this point. And Cleveland Brown fans actually, and I saw this today and I thought, holy crap, they actually vandalized a Jim Brown statue outside of the Browns stadium in, I don't know, some kind of refuting the fact that, Watson is going to be the starter week 1. Browns fans are crazy. I work with one and he can joke about his team. But to vandalize a Jim Brown statue because you're just so sick of what the Browns organization is doing, seems wild. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think this, number one, it dates back to them trading for Deshaun off the ACL injury, and then number obviously was 3 first-round picks and some change, then also giving him the first guaranteed contract in NFL history. But then you lead into last year in April, and it's so frustrating to me because it was a home run draft for Cleveland. It truly was. Carson Schwarzenegger, elite defensive player, Harold Fandon, elite tight end. They hit a home run, and you take Gabriel in the third, and it's like, okay, you took Gabriel, little shorter quarterback, whatever, and then you decide to take Shadur in the fifth, and it wasn't, and Quinshon Jenkins and Dylan Sampson as well. Shout out them two running backs; those are both dogs. Just adding to the draft class, but it just made no sense to me why. And obviously, it was a Stefanski and front office dispute in terms of just who wanted what, but taking both quarterbacks in the first 5 rounds, it was infuriating to just bloat that quarterback room unnecessarily. And now going into this year, you have Deshaun being named the starter, and I just don't see any reason why he should be when number one, the contract is nearly up. You could cut him after this year and just deal with the void years on the contract and really truly see what you have in Shadur Sanders and understand if, because this roster is so talented if you really look at it. The defense, like you said earlier in the show, all those AFC North showdowns are just complete blood fests, and game in, game out, anyone could come out a winner. And this team is a serviceable quarterback away from truly competing for a playoff position. So to really see what you have in a young quarterback is more so attractive to me than what you have in a washed Deshaun Watson that we've seen, who has not been what he's been since a while.
Yeah, I get it from the Cleveland Browns fan base. The guy has basically sucked about 5 years of your franchise dry with his contract and his non-play, his terrible play, and now his remarks. The Browns organizations it goes out and it gets a head coach in Todd Monken, who was the Ravens offensive coordinator last year, and I could tell you firsthand, dude just loved to piss games away. I'm not sure why he got a head coaching job in front of some of these other guys, but maybe he came at a discount, because he was coaching the Browns, and nobody really wants to coach there besides, I don't know, people that are already there. I don't know. But was there anything that maybe we didn't cover tonight that you want to talk about yet? We got about 5 minutes to go, so I want to kind of give you the floor here before we sign off.
Yeah, I've always after last year ended and kind of looking at the different players that had the years they had, I don't think there's a more group of guys that have more pressure on them than the 2024 draft class first round, between the quarterbacks and the receivers. Like, you had Caleb, a little bit of a lackluster rookie year, took a step up his sophomore year, now has huge high expectations with the second year with Ben Johnson. Jaden Daniels, fantastic rookie year, injury riddled sophomore year, took a step down. Drake May obviously went to the Super Bowl last year, and now Marvin Harrison, not exactly who we thought he'd be in NFL. Brian Thomas, elite rookie year, took a step back in the sophomore year. Keon Coleman, another guy we obviously know the Cam Newton memes of the press conference of him enjoying cookies and then not playing up to par. Like, between the quarterbacks and the wide receivers, all these guys have so much pressure on them, and I'm excited to see who steps up and who, because year 3 is always that kind of the year, like, okay, is this guy it, or do we have to replace?
Yeah, absolutely. And you got guys in there too about Malik Neighbors, and everybody thought that, coming into this year, how hurt is he going to be? I can't believe that guy is still going third round in some fantasy football drafts. This guy puts up number one numbers. He's a wide receiver one. And, obviously they don't have a lot of weapons in New York kind of surrounded him. They got Darnell Mooney. They got a rookie over there. I think they just lost Calvin Austin, if I'm not mistaken. He's out with the year leg injury. I like the fact that they grabbed Isaiah Likely. I think he's going to have a huge year this year. I'm going to keep on preaching it. But yeah, Malik Neighbors is one of them. Rome Dunze. I think he's primed for a good year as well. Even beside, Luther Burden being there. They've got their tight end set. You mentioned Caleb Williams. A lot of great players came out of that draft. And then on the flip side of it, to mention a couple of the downers, Michael Penix Jr. I'm still not sure with that draft pick that they had, why they didn't go Dallas Turner when they needed a linebacker there. I thought that was going to be the obvious choice. They reached for Michael Penix there. But yeah, and then obviously JJ McCarthy. And I think that's a big one too. What is Minnesota going to do with JJ McCarthy now? Bringing that up, and obviously they've only got Kyler Murray on a 1-year contract, but when you're getting outplayed by Carson Wentz, and it looks like you've never thrown a football before. I mean, this guy's doing nothing but throwing fastballs to all of his wide receivers. The accuracy is poor. He's not putting touch on the ball. It's really crazy to think that you would draft a quarterback that high from a school that, yes, they won the national championship, but I mean, he didn't have to pass a whole lot. They had a great ground game and a defense. So, that's kind of a crazy one. JJ McCarthy, is he going to be on the chopping block? What do you think about him? Are they going to give up on him, or are they going to keep him as a number 2 and a gigantic question mark and try to put Carson Wentz on the practice squad?
Yeah, what I would love to see is a rare quarterback for quarterback swap and send JJ to Indy and send Richardson to Minnesota. As a Bears fan and as a Richardson believer, that scares the crap out of me because you give KOC a weapon like AR in terms of being able to potentially develop him and have him for the next 8 years for how young he is. Obviously a risk because both quarterbacks haven't played up to what they were drafted as, but just something intriguing to maybe shoot for.
Yeah, that's a great take. I haven't heard that one before, but that's actually that's a fun one. I wouldn't mind seeing that either, just to see how they both pan out.
Yeah.
All right, Logan, final plug for you. Where can people find you if you've got content out there?
Yeah, so you guys can follow me on X at LoganBland12, or also I post on TikTok. It's Logan.Wayne03. Post more so comedy stuff over there, but as the season goes on, I'll post more and more sports takes and content. So if you guys want to check me out, would appreciate it, and I appreciate having me on, Jeff. It was a blast.
Hey, not a problem, man. This was great. And everyone, please check them out. I thought the content that you brought out today, really in depth. It really shows that you know your stuff. You can even talk about college and all that fun stuff. So definitely give Logan a look up. Go ahead and click follow and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And if you're looking for something else in here, if you've got comments or anything else about the Downfield Reel show here, we've got Tuesdays and Thursdays that we're going to be doing, and then Sunday morning soon enough when the season gets up. Logan, we're going to have you on again sometime. So really enjoyed the conversation. I think you bring a lot of content. Next time I'll give you a little bit more of a heads up than a couple hours and say, hey man, are you available? Sure. But you might want to get to your game. I think they start up right now, the Rams and the Chargers.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll let you get to that. Thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. Please go ahead, like I said before, subscribe. You know where I'm at, X, Instagram. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to cut this off. Logan, thanks again, man. And we will be talking to you soon.
Yes, sir.